Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Scott Giacomucci. I'm the director and founder of the Phoenix Center for Experiential Trauma Therapy in Media, Pennsylvania. I'm board certified in clinical social work, sociometry, psychodrama, and group psychotherapy, and my expertise is in trauma and traumatic stress. I'm really happy you found this video, and I hope that you do find it helpful in your work and or in your healing journey. So in this video, we're going to explore the 10 agency domains outlined by SAMHSA in their publication about trauma-informed practice, trauma-informed principles, and trauma-informed care. So this video is especially targeting organizational leaders, community leaders, supervisors, directors, and folks developing new programs. These are 10 domains to take into consideration within your organization when looking to develop a trauma-informed system, a trauma-informed agency. These 10 domains will be looked at individually. Of course, they all overlap and intersect, and together make up the entire agency. We'll want to look at each of these individual domains through the lens of the 6 trauma-informed principles, also outlined by SAMHSA, which I discussed in a previous video. We'll put a link to that video here as well. Also, if you haven't already viewed the other videos on my channel related to trauma-informed care, I'd suggest starting with those first. There's a second video about the 4 R's of trauma-informed care, which will help you contextualize the content in this video as well. So the 10 agency domains for consideration in trauma-informed care. These domains are meant to guide providers, practitioners, and leaders in implementing trauma-informed practices and principles into their work. So the first of the 10 domains is about governance and leadership. So trauma-informed principles and care, it starts at the top, meaning that the leaders within organizations need to be embodying trauma-informed principles in their behavior, in their actions, in their decision-making processes. Almost like when you think about organizational core values, we could think of the trauma-informed principles as core values that can help guide us in decision-making, in dealing with conflict, in leading an organization, in governing an organization. That these 6 trauma-informed principles, they need to be at the forefront of the minds of our leaders. They need to be discussed in board meetings. They need to be talked about in organizational meetings. They need to be taken into consideration when decisions are made that impact everyone within the organization and everyone that the organization serves. So this is the first organizational domain. The second domain is about policy. So this clearly relates to the first, that when leaders are developing policies within the organization, that the trauma-informed principles need to be considered. Does this policy really uphold, promote, cultivate, and embody the 6 trauma-informed principles? Or is this a policy that undermines trauma-informed practice? These 6 trauma-informed principles can really guide us in developing and crafting together new policies and modifying old policies that may be outdated or might not fully embody trauma-informed practice. So, although it's tough work, sometimes we need to rewrite our policies in order to be more trauma-informed. The third agency domain is about the actual physical environment that the agency operates in and provides services in. So, is the environment trauma-informed? Would a trauma survivor feel safe spending time in this environment? And this includes customers or clients, community members, as well as our colleagues and coworkers. Is there enough lighting? in the parking lot? Enough lighting in the building? Is the interior of the building somewhat appealing visually? Is it inviting? Is the furniture arranged in a way that's comfortable without feeling like there's no privacy in a waiting room? Or are the exits easy to get to? Are there spaces that someone could move to if they were feeling overwhelmed? Can someone get to the door in the therapy office easily if they felt like they needed to get out of there? Do we position clients so that their back is to the door? This is something many of my clients, my trauma clients, they really struggle with sitting with their back to the door because of their hyperarousal, hypervigilance, lack of safety. So when I set up my room for groups, I intentionally sit with my back to the door so that none of the clients have to do it. So really simple things about our physical environment can promote or undermine trauma-informed practice. So the fourth of the agency domains is about engagement and involvement. And so the way I like to think about this domain is that it applies to everyone in the organization, including the employees and staff, as well as engaging and involving clients and community members within the community that's being served. So in the ways that we interact with coworkers, the organizational culture that we uphold and establish, in the ways that we build relationships and maintain relationships with our referral sources, with other agencies in the community, with our partners in the community. Are we embodying the 6 trauma-informed principles? Are we promoting safety, collaboration, transparency, trustworthiness? Are we addressing issues related to social justice and history and culture and gender? Are we promoting mutual support within our organization? Do we create spaces where coworkers can support each other and collaborate on projects? Do we empower employees in our organization? Do we trust them? These would all fit within engagement and involvement in organization. In the context of engagement and involvement with our clients and community, do we take their experience seriously? Their feedback? Do we give opportunities for them to give us feedback? And then do we read what they wrote in their satisfaction surveys? And do we create changes based on their feedback? How do we engage in relationships that are trauma-informed with our clients and with the community that we serve? How do we promote trauma-informed relationships between our clients if we're doing group work or working in the community? Are we really embodying all of the trauma-informed principles in the way that we engage and involve other coworkers, other agencies, our clients, and our community? So the 5th agency domain is about cross-sector collaboration. So this is, I like to think of this as taking an interdisciplinary approach to the work. Are we overly focused in one area, or have we integrated different disciplines, different approaches within our organization? For example, in a treatment center, do our nursing staff and our counseling team communicate regularly, and is there a unified approach to the way that the client is treated? Or are they overly segregated, disconnected, and fragmented? Because that's going to impact the client's experience receiving treatment. They might be hearing 2 different things from different departments. So we need to have cross-sector collaboration. Is the administration collaborating with the frontline staff? Are we valuing every employee equally, regardless of their salary? Are the janitors, the frontline staff, the receptionists, the folks working in the kitchen, maintenance teams, Are they treated with the same level of dignity, of worth, of respect? Do we value them in the way that we treat them and talk to them in the same way that we value the supervisors, directors, board members? So this would all fit in to the way that we integrate cross-sector, that we have a interdisciplinary approach that values all the different disciplines, different departments within the organization, and that there's communication amongst them, that there's integration amongst all the different parts of the organization. So the sixth agency domain is about assessment, about screening, and treatment services. So are the ways that we're conducting assessments and screenings for potential clients, for intakes, is it done in a way that embodies the trauma-informed principles? Are we forcing clients to talk about something they're not ready to talk about? Are we requiring them to tell us all the details of their trauma story before they've developed a sense of safety and trust with us? Do we give them choice? Do we listen to their voice, to their stories, or are we just trying to fill out answers on our biopsychosocial assessment in order to get it done? Are the screening tools and assessments that we're using, do they fit with the community that we're working with? Have we translated them or found translated versions that fit with the languages that are spoken in the clients and communities that we serve? Are the screening tools and assessments that we use, are they culturally competent? Do they take into account variations in different communities and cultures? Are we using screening tools and assessments, interventions and treatment practices that were developed for the age group of our clients? So this would all fit into this sixth agency domain. How are we embodying trauma-informed principles in the way that we admit clients into our program, screen and assess them, and actually provide the treatment services? Just because you're doing trauma therapy does not mean that you're doing it in a way that's trauma-informed. I've seen and heard of plenty of people that are doing trauma work, but they don't seem to have any awareness of what the six trauma-informed principles are. They're potentially causing harm to clients. They're not facilitating and providing the trauma services in ways that empower clients, that collaborate with the clients. They're not doing it in ways that are transparent and trustworthy, that honor the respect and dignity of the folks they're working with. So just because we're trained in implementing trauma therapies and treatments does not mean that we're necessarily doing it in ways that are trauma-informed. We probably are in many ways if we have good intentions and some training and background. Some of it happens organically. And we need to critically reflect on how we're providing treatment and consider if there are ways that it could be more trauma-informed. So the seventh agency domain is about training and development within the workplace. So this is really specific to how are we investing in our staff? Do we offer in-services regularly that meet them where they're at? In-services that are interesting, that are engaging? Do we bring in trainers from different backgrounds with different specialties? Have we provided training on the trauma-informed principles within our organization for all of the staff? Are we taking into account the voice and preferences of the staff when we're hiring trainers, when we're providing trainings? Are we empowering the staff themselves to be the ones providing trainings for their peers at times when appropriate? Are we really investing time, money, energy, care into those that work for us and with us? Are we valuing them, their contributions, and their development, their growth as professionals? Are we providing them with benefits and services that promote well-being, emotionally, personally, and outside of the workplace as well? There was a meme I saw on LinkedIn a while ago that stuck with me related to this. It was a CEO asking, kind of like, where's the bigger risk? If we invest in our employees and their personal growth, their professional growth, and their training, they might leave. That's definitely a risk. But is it a bigger risk than not investing in our employees, not cultivating their personal growth, and them staying with us? This was something that always stuck with me. It seems that it really highlights the importance of continuing to promote professional growth within our organizations, within our supervisees, within our colleagues. So the 8th agency domain is about monitoring progress, about quality assurance. So how are we tracking productivity of our employees? Are we doing it in ways that are overly rigid and dehumanizing? Are we collaborating with them in trying to improve their progress, to improve the quality of services that we're offering together? What do performance evaluations look like and feel like for staff when they're done on an annual basis? How much voice and empowerment are the staff experiencing throughout these processes? How do we increase the quality of our services, the quality that our employees are providing to our clients and customers, in a way that's trauma-informed, that isn't overly demanding or rigid or authoritarian? How do we do it with collaboration, with transparency, with safety, with empowerment? So the 9th agency domain is about the financial aspect of running an organization. This is sometimes one of the toughest parts of running a business, an organization, is that our primary goal is about helping people, usually. And at some level, we can't, as an organization, continue to function and help people if we don't have good financial health. So financing might come from different places depending on the organization and your organizational structure. In some organization, all of the finances are coming from grants, from fundraising, from other funders. And are we going about the fundraising process in ways that are trauma-informed, that are respecting the communities that we're working with, providing transparency to the folks providing us funding in our organization? Are we embodying trauma-informed principles in the way that we're advocating and applying for grants? Are we being fully honest and transparent in our grant applications? There seems to be a new movement about trauma-informed grant making, which is really good news, that a lot of funders and foundations are specifically interested in funding organizations that are embedding trauma-informed principles and practices into their work. So we find a bit of a unity in this area. In other organizations, funding for the services is coming entirely from money that customers are paying for those services. And so are we appropriately setting the costs of services in a way that is empowering to clients, that makes our services accessible to different communities? Do we have options within our organization for different types of services at different fee levels, so that different services can become more accessible? Are we paying our staff a living wage? Do our staff feel valued based on the compensation that they're receiving? Do we take into consideration when it's time to increase salaries, increase compensation for our staff? Are we providing our staff with additional compensation based on bonuses and other benefits? So this financial piece, it can be a tough aspect of running an organization, especially when the governance and leadership of an organization are not trained in business and are therapists or social workers primarily. I think the trauma-informed principle of transparency, trustworthiness, becomes especially important when we're talking about money with staff, with our communities and customers. That there has to be transparency about how much things are going to cost, about how and when services are going to be charged for, about how payment is going to be handled right from the start. So the 10th and final agency domain is about evaluation. So how are we evaluating the impact of the work that we're doing, the effectiveness of the work that we're doing? Are we measuring outcomes, and how? How can we create internal policies, procedures, and systems that embed evaluation and outcome measures into what we're already doing in ways that are efficient and don't create too much increased work for our frontline staff who are probably already have enough on their plate? So there's really simple ways of adding in evaluation and outcome measures into programs. A good place to start is to consider what assessment tools you're already using upon admission. Let's say in one of the programs that I oversee at an inpatient treatment center, we were using the PTSD checklist as part of the referral process, initial assessment for referral to the trauma program. And so in realizing this and wanting to add more outcome measures to the program, I simply added the same PTSD checklist at the end of the program so that we had a pre-test and a post-test for participants in the program. It didn't require a whole lot of more time or energy on anyone's part. I simply added it with some open-ended questions about patient satisfaction and experience in the program. One page front and back. And so collecting data, qualitative, quantitative mixed methods, data about the effectiveness of our programs and our organizations, both from the people we're serving and from employees within our organization, allows us to make changes. It highlights things that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. It allows us to see what's working and what's not working. It allows us to refine programs, policies, and practices that are already in place to improve them, to make them better. I think we should always be engaging in evaluation to assess if what we're doing is really working or not, or if we just think that it's working, or feels like it's working. We really need to be evaluating, is it really working? Is it really effective? And in what ways and how? And what can we do to make it more effective? And so when we're implementing procedures and policies for evaluation within our organizations, we also need to be considering the trauma-informed principles. If we're going to use outcomes data in marketing or in research, are we getting a full informed consent from participants before doing that? Did we get an IRB approval if we're going to publish it as a research study? Are we empowering the clients and patients to have some say in what it is that we're evaluating and what assessments we're using? Earlier this year, I was changing some of the outcome measures and assessments and evaluation I was using in one of the programs I run. And I decided that it would be helpful simply to ask the patients what it is that they'd like to measure. What is it that you would be curious about measuring upon referral to the program, throughout your time in the program, and at discharge? What is it that you'd want to measure and assess? And I got a lot of feedback, a lot of validation for what I was thinking, but I also got some other ideas that I hadn't thought of. It surprised the hell out of me. The patients actually said, we love the idea of being able to do a PTSD checklist every single week instead of just at the beginning of the program and the end of the program. Can we start doing it every week? Can we start this week? I really would like to be able to track my progress week to week. And so I was really surprised at how interested patients were in evaluating their progress and the effectiveness of the program. It challenged me to check my own bias, because I had assumed that patients wouldn't want to have to fill out another assessment, that they wouldn't be interested in what their score was on a research instrument or an evaluation tool. And I was wrong. That there are ways that we can engage and get buy-in from our patients, from our community members, to be active participants in the evaluation process. If we show them that we value and appreciate their feedback and take it seriously and will create changes based on it, they're much more likely to speak up and to give us feedback. So these are the 10 agency domains, again, outlined by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, to be taken into consideration when creating trauma-informed organizations. These 10 domains can be applied in any organization, from a treatment center, a social services organization, a school or university, a community program, activist groups. You could even consider these 10 agency domains in the context of group therapy. After all, an agency is simply a group of people with an embedded structure. So these 10 domains can apply in different areas. They could apply for entire systems, entire communities, towns, governments, states, and even countries. So there's many ways that we can inform the work that we're doing to make it more trauma-informed. What I suggest to organizational leaders is to take these 10 organizational domains and to create a matrix, a big spreadsheet, with the 6 trauma-informed principles and the 10 organizational domains. And to go through one by one and specifically and concretely look at each of these 10 domains through the lens of each of the 6 trauma-informed principles. To explore, how are we embodying this trauma-informed principle in this organizational domain? What are we doing well? And how can we better implement it? How can we improve what we're doing in specific, sometimes simple ways, sometimes small ways, to further become a more trauma-informed organization? If you wanted to read more about these agency domains, I would suggest that you explore the different publications that SAMHSA has put out about trauma-informed care. If you found this video helpful, there's a number of other videos on my channel here about trauma-informed principles, about trauma and PTSD, and about different approaches to healing from trauma. I would really be interested in your feedback, especially in the comment section below. Be curious, which of these 10 agency domains do you feel like your organization best embodies trauma-informed care? Which of these 10 domains do you feel like your organization could do a much better job at implementing trauma-informed care? I'd also be curious to hear from you if there's anything about the video that you found particularly helpful, or if there's suggestions, feedback that you have for me about how these videos could be more helpful for you, or how future videos could be helpful. I look forward to hearing from you,